Good evening, everyone. We have a tornado warning that has just been issued for those of you in Lincoln County and western Moore County. I've been following this supercell here since it was west of I-65 earlier, and it's been showing some signs of rotation. We now have a tornado warning for those of you in Lincoln and Moore counties in Middle Tennessee. And let me get you the time on that. That's going to go in effect here through the next 45 minutes. So this is going to go in effect until 10:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So let me get you the specifics on that. It says a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Petersburg, or 12 miles to the north and west of Fayetteville, and it's moving east at 20 miles an hour. This dangerous storm will be near Petersburg around 9:50 p.m. Other locations impacted by this tornadic thunderstorm include Belleville, Mulberry, Chestnut Ridge, Mimosa, Boonville, and Howell. This also includes the north side of Fayetteville as well and the west side of Lynchburg. So again, if you are in the highlighted red areas, we do have a tornado warning for those of you in Lincoln and western Moore County. So if you know anybody out in here, tag them in the comments and share this out, spread the word, whatever you got to do here to make sure that these areas are aware of possible tornado activity. So let's get right down into the velocity here, and this is a very strong indication of a possible tornado. I mean, this rotation has really tightened over the last few minutes. It's northwest of the Lakeville community, and it's just south of Petersburg. So here's Lincoln County right here, and over here to the right is Moore County. So if you're in Lynchburg, you need to be taking your tornado precautions right now. This is heading east in your direction. If you're also down here towards Mulberry, you also need to be in your tornado safe spot as well. Be getting down there immediately. Belleville and Boonville also need to be seeking shelter. In areas from downtown Fayetteville and points north, you also need to be sheltered, but if you're south of downtown Fayetteville, you don't have to be sheltered. And also, here's your early heads up here for those of you in Franklin County, because if this supercell holds together, and right now it's in a favorable environment, so it could, if it were to hold together, this major rotation here will impact your area within the next hour. So if you're out here towards Winchester and Huntland and Deckard and Belvedere, and I hate to say it, but Estill Springs, you guys need to be aware of this. And also, if you know somebody that's out in Franklin County, like I say, tag them, call them, text them, whatever you got to do. Make sure they're aware that there's a tornadic supercell to the west in Lincoln County that is heading in their direction. So, as I said, we got to get the word spread here because this is a tornado warning. The other storms earlier did not have all the rotation. This one unfortunately does because it's by itself and it pretty much has its own environment to work with. I mean, you got these other storms to the south, but this is really acting as its own thing, and that's the problem with these supercell storms. They will, when they're on their own like this, they can really cause problems. So take it seriously here in northern Lincoln County and in the western half of Moore County, and I'll even say as far east as downtown Lynchburg. I know downtown Lynchburg is not technically in the polygon, but I'm just telling you right now, you just got to take this seriously and seek shelter. So again, that's your tornado warning until 10:30. This is for areas basically from downtown Fayetteville and north up towards the Marshall and Bedford County line. So this is south of Shelbyville. This is southeast of Lewisburg. And this is moving towards the Mulberry area and areas. And eventually, if it holds together, this will impact the Lynchburg area. So as I said, all those areas need to be undergoing their tornado safety precautions right now. So far, the good news here is I'm not seeing any indications of tornadic debris, so I'm seeing some good news here. So thumbs up for right now. But again, that does not mean that one cannot form, because you got to remember, a tornado can pop up at any time. I mean, there was actually a very strong indication of a tornado earlier that didn't get warned on that was up by Spring Hill, Tennessee earlier, out near I-65 south of Nashville. So these storms out here to the west, unfortunately, have had a history of producing rotation and who knows, maybe even a possible tornado. So like I say, right in here where you see this hook crossing over 431 and moving out here towards Belleville and Boonville, these areas right now are the main areas that need to be taking their tornado safety precautions, and this includes also State Route 244. It's north of 64, so the tornado threat is going to be north of Highway 64. So if you draw a line basically where 64 is right here at this bottom part of your screen, it's mainly north of that road. So it'd be north of that road and west of 41A. That's the corridor where this supercell is going with the possible tornado. So again, like I say, if you're in Franklin County, you're not in imminent danger right now, but within the next hour, if this storm were to hold together, you will be having to dealing with it. You'll have to deal with impacts from this dangerous storm. So just be on guard and be ready to take a place of safety out here towards Timms Ford Lake, especially Timms Ford Lake, down here towards Belvedere, Winchester, and Estill Springs. And looks like this is going to likely pass. If it were to pass near Tullahoma, it looks like it's going to pass south of town. So I don't think Tullahoma would have an issue with this storm. I think this would stay south of there by a good bit. But it would mainly be from right here from Petersburg to Lynchburg to Estill Springs and south to Winchester to Mulberry and possibly as far south as Belvedere if it makes a right turn. So as long as it doesn't make a right turn, this won't hit Belvedere or Huntland. But if it were to keep going on this path, it will impact Estill Springs and Winchester and possibly even Decker too. So those are the areas right now that need to be on guard for the for the possibility of a tornado down the road. But the immediate concern right now is in northern Lincoln County. So let's check velocities here real quick. As I said, this is still a very strong indication and looks like it's trying to broaden out, so that's good. But we still got a pretty strong velocity couplet here. Crossing over the Belleville area and moving up towards Boonville. So here's western Moore County. So let's get down here into street level here real quick. So State Route 244 is in line of this, so take cover in that area. This is also over towards Shorttown Road, Fishing Ford Road. Again, this is northern Lincoln County. The Collier Cemetery, Lewisburg Highway, that's Bidwell. Out here towards the Hall Cemetery, Roy Brown Road, Old Petersburg Pike. This is the area right now that has the potential of seeing a tornado at this particular time. And then out here to the east, as I said, down here towards Mulberry and Mimosa and Howell, you also need to be sheltered here as well. And really, as I said, the polygon here does go just about here, as I said, to about 64 just north of there. So this does include the Lincoln Medical Center in Fayetteville. This includes Elk Mill Village. This also includes downtown, so right around the square there in downtown Fayetteville. You're involved in that. Lincoln Theater, all those areas, the Golf and Country Club. And out here towards Douglas. Locks Mill, you're not quite in this, but you're close enough to seek shelter. And same with the city of Lynchburg, as well as the Jack Daniels Distillery. So these are all the areas right now that are in line of this possible tornado here that thankfully so far has shown signs of broadening out. But again, it doesn't mean that it can't, tighten back up. So we just got to watch it carefully. And again, when you see this little swirl here on Doppler radar, that usually means that there is some rotation in that storm. And that's exactly what it's doing. So again, this is out of Marshall County now. This is east of there. And this is going to make, as I said, an impact here towards Moore County. And if it holds together, potentially even the Franklin County area. Now, I do want to monitor a storm also just north up here south of Murfreesboro. This is the one that produced that little rotation over Spring Hill earlier. This will impact parts of Cannon and northern Coffee counties and perhaps Warren County. But so far, I'm not seeing any indications of a possible tornado at this time. But definitely a pretty strong thunderstorm up in here with some gusty winds. But again, real quick here, here's the new velocity scan update I just got in. Again, so far, as I said, just check the debris once again, not seeing anything there, so some positive news on that cell. But again, as I said, it could change at any minute, so that's why I'm saying you got to seek shelter here if you're up here towards Bidwell, towards the Belleville area, and also Petersburg. Now, I know Petersburg, you're technically more towards the hail core portion of the storm up here by the Marshall County line, but you are close enough to be considered part of this tornado warning, and the circulation is close enough for you to still seek shelter. So also Chestnut Ridge, you need to be sheltered too. So right along 231 here, out here towards Boonville, there's State Route 129 in western Moore County. You need to be those areas also need to be taking tornado precautions. And then down here to the south too, so there's Crescent, take cover. Sulphur Springs, take cover. Those are the areas that need to be in take cover as well. So again, I'm actually seeing two different little possible rotations here. So we might have two tornadoes in this. So let me get that off here and I'll draw that on here. So I'm seeing one here, right northwest of Blakeville there, and one right over the Bidwell community. So these are fairly broad rotations, but they're strong enough to be considered rotating updrafts here and possible tornadoes. So I'll show you again. Let me zoom that out so you see that a little bit better. Here's one rotation here. Here's the other here. And these are both heading to the east. So, as I said, these are both heading towards the Lynchburg area. So everybody in the Lynchburg-Moore County area needs to be on guard and needs to be following through with safety precautions. And hopefully before then it'll weaken. But we still got to play precautionary here and make sure that everybody's seeking shelter here until this passes. Also, in case if you're wondering, also I am live also on YouTube. So under Chase B Weather on YouTube, I'm also broadcasting this live via a restream. So you can actually be able to see my face on the southeast corner of the screen as well. So it may make the screen a little better to see. So if you do want to see it on YouTube, that's my handle. So I'm broadcasting in multiple different ways here, so that way you're able to get this life-saving information here, especially for those that are in this warned area in northern Lincoln County and western Moore County. So I said I'm on multiple different ways. So like I said, I have multiple different ways to where you could be able to watch this coverage. So you can watch it on YouTube and also here on Facebook. So also, we have some other strong storms that I'm watching here. There's one that's popped up over Tullahoma, but that one's currently non-severe. And there's another one down in here to the south and west towards Delrose that's moving towards Kirkland and Park City that's currently non-severe. But again, those storms... Now, remember, the air mass over here in southern Middle Tennessee, specifically west of I-24, the air mass out here is a lot more unstable than it is to the east. So the atmosphere... Thankfully, farther east, out here towards Grundy County and Marion County and points east, at least right now, is fairly stable. So with time, that should help gradually weaken this storm, and hopefully some mergers can happen here and allow this storm to basically gust out and just be more of a gusty wind producer. But again, right now, though, at the moment, we can't count on that right now. So that's what I'm saying at the moment. You cannot let your guard down here. So that's what I'm saying. Franklin County, stay alert. And also Moore County and northern Lincoln County, make sure you're following through with tornado safety precautions right now and wait until this storm passes. Making sure I don't miss any other reports here. As I said, if you know anybody that's in these areas, in this red highlighted area, or even in the surrounding areas, even down here towards Flintville, to Timms Ford Lake, Lynchburg area, as I said, tag as many people as you can that are in those areas so that way they're aware and watching the weather situation here very closely here in case that we do have to potentially worry about possible tornadoes here. But again, right now, here's the storm. As I said, thankfully, it looks like it's trying to shear apart, so that's a good thing. So when you see a storm get kind of more west to east oriented as opposed to the big hook we saw earlier when this warning was first issued, that's usually a sign that this storm is starting to shear out, so hopefully that will be the case, fingers crossed, and that way we won't have to worry about rotation. But as long as this warning is still in effect, and as long as this storm is still a severe thunderstorm, it could still recycle, and it could potentially produce a possible tornado. So this is something we got to keep in mind. There's also the potential of hail in this thunderstorm, so right over Belleville heading towards Booneville. There's also the potential for large hail within this storm as well. So Mulberry, you're also in line of this. So heads up there. Take your safety precautions there if you haven't yet. Again, as I say, I'll go over those real quick. If you have a basement, that's great. If you don't, lowest floor, near the center, away from windows. So any place in the middle of the house, closet, bathroom, hallway, something that's away from windows and outside walls. And again, rain blankets, pillows, helmets, whatever you can to protect yourself from possible flying debris. I know we don't have a confirmed tornado at the moment, but I just want to make sure that you're safe just in case one were to touch down, and so that way you're not caught by surprise by it and anything like that. So again, just follow through those simple safety precautions. And again, if you have a basement, again, go into that. If you don't have that, enter your room, lowest floor, near the center, away from windows. Again, if you're on a second level part of your home, go to the bottom level. Never stay up. You got to go down for this kind of situation. So that's what I'm saying. Lowest floor, near the center, and away from windows. Now downtown Fayetteville looks like you guys are going to be in better shape here. As long as this storm doesn't curve a hard right south, looks like you guys are going to stay predominantly safe here. Now, Mulberry, that's different. So from Mulberry up to Lynchburg and Belleville here, these are the main areas right now that I'm seeing the most imminent danger of a possible tornado, as well as the potential for some strong straight line winds and also a little bit of small hail within this storm as well. So it's a multifaceted storm, and it's still technically a supercell. So that's why I'm saying we can't let our guards down about this just yet, even though it's becoming more of this east-west oriented storm that, in other words, it's broadening. And that's what we want to see. We want to see this rotation broaden and go away. And hopefully that's what we'll see here in the next few minutes. Like I said, we still got some small, weak areas of circulation. Here's one south of Petersburg. Here's the other that's approaching Highway 231 there in northern Lincoln County. Again, this is about a 5-10 mile trek north of downtown Fayetteville. So here's the new velocity scan. The western circulation is weakened here. It's mainly become more of a what we call a downburst wind. And this one over here is trying to become the predominant area, but so far this is also becoming more downburst. So the rotation in this thunderstorm, at least so far, is still fairly broad. So that's the good news. And I hope to, as I'm saying, I'm hoping to goodness that this continues to broaden out to the point where we won't have to worry about a tornado anymore. But again, stay in your shelters here north of downtown Fayetteville, and especially from the center of Lynchburg, points west. So basically Highway 50 and points west from there. Just make sure you're staying sheltered here in your basements or lowest interior rooms until this passes. And again, the lightning output, as of recent, it actually has decreased a little bit. So that is also a good sign. This also means the storm may also be weakening as well. So that's another good thing I'm seeing in this. So hopefully the downtrend will continue, because you got to remember, when the lightning count increases, that usually means the storm is intensifying, and when the lightning count decreases, that usually means the opposite. So there is some hope here that this cell is continuing to show signs of weakening. Again, all these other storms to the south and east of this, thankfully, are non-severe, and that green over there you see by Tracy City, all that is just light to moderate rain. And in fact, that may actually help stabilize you out here. So stabilization is good here. So that rain you're seeing out there towards Mont Eagle and Tracy, that's a good thing. You want to see that, because that can actually help keep this storm, from at least the most intense part of it, from getting to you. Hopefully, fingers crossed, of course. But as I said, anything can help stabilize things as this storm moves off to the east. So again, here's Highway 50. There's 231, 431 in northern Lincoln County. They're near and just south of Petersburg, Tennessee. This is the main area of concern, and this is moving pretty much due east. And it's moving due east. I'll put a track on this storm. It's moving east at 20 miles an hour. So what I'll do here is I'll jump over here to Max 2, get you a track on that, and I'll track it from the area of circulation. And we'll track it here through Lynchburg. And in fact, I'll go ahead and just be safe here and put Franklin in this. So here's the estimated times of arrival for you. 10:04 for Belleville. So be in your safe place there in northern Lincoln County. Boonville there at 10:16. Lynchburg around 10:30. That's downtown around the distillery there around 10:30. Beach Hill around 10:40. And if this storm were to hold together, and that's a big if it holds together, it'll be near Winchester Springs by 10:55. Estill Springs around 11 o'clock. Winchester around 11:05. And Deckard around 11:09. And they just issued a severe thunderstorm warning for this storm with a tornado possible tag on it. So if you're in Lincoln, Moore, and Franklin counties, you have a severe thunderstorm warning. Now, there's no tornado warning in Winchester or Deckard, but there's a chance out there that your sirens are probably going to go off, because it is a severe thunderstorm warning, and there's also a tornado possible tag attached to the warning. So when you have that kind of tagging issued in this kind of warning, your sirens probably will, I would bet that they probably go off. So again, don't be alarmed by that. Just know that you're under a severe thunderstorm warning that does have the tag of a possible tornado. So treat it like a tornado warning and just simply go through your safety precautions and wait this out for about the next, it says the warning runs in effect through the next hour here, so it runs in effect till 11 o'clock. I think you'll probably be out of it before then, but let's just wait this out, follow through with the typical safety precautions, and let's just wait this out here for the next several minutes. So those of you up in here, again, as I said, I'm looking on velocity here behind the scenes here, and I'll jump back over here to this source. As I said, it continues to be broad. Now, one thing I'm not liking here is this downburst is actually trying to catch up to it, so that's not really a good thing. It looks like they just canceled this warning, so I'll double check here in just a minute, but it looks like they might have canceled this warning, this tornado warning. So if that is, that's a great sign. Let's see here. Yeah, look, they did. So good news there. So if you're in northern Lincoln County and western Moore County, your tornado warning has been canceled. So let me reread that there again. That warning has been canceled. It just disappeared here on this map. So this has been replaced. This tornado warning has been replaced by a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag on it. So again, if you're out there towards Lynchburg, Mulberry, and out east towards Timms Ford, Estill Springs, Deckard, Winchester, Belvedere, even as far east as Cowan, and actually Cowan I believe is technically in this. Yes, you are. So even in Cowan, I would still, as far east as Cowan, I would still be on guard, and just in case this storm were to re-intensify. Because remember, these storms today have had a history of cycling up and down. It looks like they want to go away, and then about 20 minutes later, all of a sudden they pulse back up again. So there's always that chance that this could pulse right back up again, and we may be talking about another possible tornado here within minutes. So we got to watch this carefully. But right now, at the moment, as of this very minute here, as of 10:05 p.m. on Friday night, the tornado warning has been canceled for northern Lincoln County, western Moore County, and the rotation is weak. This is mainly what I'm seeing here on velocity here. I'll go back to that again. I'm seeing more of what we call a downburst, so you can see the winds going this way, and it's very broad. This could also be a microburst, this could be a whole bunch of things here. So this could be a downburst, it could be a microburst, so that right there in itself could produce wind damage. So we'll just have to watch that carefully as it moves toward the Highway 50 corridor here and moves up towards Boonville in the downtown Lynchburg area and over here towards Beach Hill. So Beach Hill, here's your heads up. I know I feel like I've called some of these communities many times here over the last couple of weeks. Unfortunately, these areas have just had round after round after round of severe storms and severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. But unfortunately, this storm is affecting these same areas. And it looks like on that last scan, unfortunately, it seems like the green is catching up to the red. So it looks like we may be seeing a re-intensification of at least some broad upper level, mid-level rotation here. Crossing over 231 right now, north of downtown Fayetteville. In fact, Fayetteville, you're out of this. So good thing is if you're in Fayetteville, this is not going to affect you. Now, you might get some rain and some thunder from this cell to the south, but it'll have nothing to do with this north storm. This north storm is going to stay to your north. But up here around Highway 50 there, and heading out here towards the State Route 121, 474 out here, 476. You guys are going to be next in line for this, and also south of State Route 82 there in Moore County. And then this is going to pass south of Tullahoma. So if you're in Tullahoma, this is not for you. So the good news is you don't have to worry about this storm if you're up there. So if you're in the Tullahoma area, you don't have to worry about this thunderstorm. This is well to your south by a pretty good bit. And also Huntland, I wouldn't worry about this either as long as this doesn't curve southeast. So as long as it stays kind of an east-southeast turn, this will not affect Huntland. And it looks like Belvedere may actually get missed by this too. But again, if it curves right, it will threaten. But if it stays on this current course, it will be mainly a Lynchburg, Estill Springs, Deckard, and Winchester issue. So let's put this into motion here and show you that movement. Again, there was that tornado warning earlier, so that's been canceled. So notice the movement here is basically due east. And remember what might happen here if this storm were to re-strengthen. It may try to pull a little more to the right. So as opposed to basically going due east, if this storm tries to strengthen, it might do more of this. So that's why I'm saying all areas in northern Franklin County need to be watching this because of that reason. Because if it strengthens and starts rotating, it's going to tend to trend more. Usually it's going to tend to trend more to the right here. So that's the area I'm watching. So where the red and green are trying to meet here north of downtown Fayetteville here. And that's going to be the area where it's probably going to go. So that's my projection on this. As far as based off what I've seen and the experience of looking at this storm, these are the areas I'm thinking it's going to affect. As long as it stays on this path. If it tries to trend more south, then it's going to be Belvedere's issue. But if it stays on the path, it's going to be Estill Springs, Deckard, and Winchester, and possibly Cowan if that were to hold together. But I said it's going to be a little ways from now before it even gets there. So you do have time to prepare. I said Franklin County, y'all got time to prepare. And even Lynchburg still technically does too. I mean, you still probably got about 15 minutes or so up there, but you got even longer out here towards Belvedere and Cowan and most of the communities in Franklin County north of Huntland here. So that's a good news. At least you got some time, and just in case the storm were to re-strengthen, you'll have plenty of time to do that. And plus, the slow movement of this storm, that also helps with the preparation times as well. It allows us to get you prepared in case we have any further reintensification. Excuse me. Let's check on these other storms up here north real fast. Want to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. Again, that rain out there towards Tracy City and Whitwell's non-severe, but that may actually help stabilize some things, so let's hope so. That would really help us out, at least in eliminating the worst of that storm to the west. Here's that heavy downpour here on the east side of Tullahoma, heading up here towards Arnold Air Force Base and the south side of Manchester. More heavy rains about to enter Hillsboro. Here are the other storms that were pretty strong earlier. They were out towards Spring Hill that had that rotation on it, aloft at least. Still seeing the remnants of that here moving into southeast of Murfreesboro here, so that's Rutherford County. And it's about to head into Cannon County and kind of clip the northern end of Coffee County. So this won't be a Manchester storm, but this will probably be more of a Pocahontas and up towards Woodbury. And eventually, if that holds together, that will impact the McMinnville area within the next hour. Yeah, these storms up in Sparta are not severe. And let's see if we got anything else. This one right here in Limestone County, Alabama is non-severe. And this one in southern Lincoln County, Tennessee is non-severe either. Is also non-severe. So some good news there. So let's check on the velocity here and make sure we don't have any. As I said, this is still a fairly broad area that I'm watching. More of a straight line wind signature for now. But again, when you still see the reds and greens kind of broad and very close to each other like this, you got to watch it because it could tighten back up again. And all of a sudden you're back to watching for a possible tornado. So hopefully it doesn't re-strengthen anymore. Hopefully it stays broad and doesn't strengthen. But again, like I say, if you're in Lynchburg, you're in Mulberry, I would still, just to be on the safe side, just in case it ramps back up again, I would still be taking cover and following through your safety precautions. And Beach Hill and Timms Ford Lake, I would still also keep an eye on this in case the storm were to also strengthen. So again, just a lot of territory here, and looks like I do think it's going to pass just north of Shady Grove down here on the bottom end of the screen, but this is the Shady Grove in Lincoln County. Now, it looks like it's going to be north of there, but you're kind of close enough to where you got to watch this closely too. This is going to probably stay north of just north of the Roe Gap Road area, so right down in here where it says 16, that's Roe Gap Road that comes up north towards Winchester and heads south into Jackson County. Thankfully, right now, it looks like it's going to stay north of there, north of that area. But here's the latest scan. And unfortunately, it looks like it's trying to tighten back up. So, as I said, these storms are cyclic, and they're trying to do whatever they can to keep going. So, Mimosa Road, Payne Hollow Road. Again, no formal tornado warning yet, but I'm watching it. Haynes Road. And let's see who else we got here. There's the other road. That's Lane Branch Road, Connor Cemetery, a lot of cemeteries out in here. Let's see. Wiseman Road. These are areas right now that I'm seeing a little bit of increased upper level rotation. Now, I cannot confirm that that's a tornado on the ground, but what I can tell you is that I'm seeing some broad upper level circulation that's trying to tighten up here. And the direction that's moving in, and let me put that on a loop again and show you where that's moving. As I said, you can see it right there. You see when it strengthened right there, notice it curved a little bit more to the right. So this is actually heading directly in line for Winchester and Deckard. I mean, not trying to scare you there, but this right here is heading right at you. So, as I said, here's your heads up. So again, right now, it's mainly damaging wind. But that could change at a moment's notice if this continues to tighten. And also the lightning count around this storm has also increased again. So I think we're seeing kind of a rejuvenation here of this thunderstorm. I know I'm using a lot of big words here, but it basically describes what's going on with this thunderstorm right now. And this is why the severe thunderstorm warning is in place with the tag of a possible tornado, is because of this right here. when you see the red and green matching up like that. So let me show you what reflectivity looks like. And there's the hook trying to form. So there it is. We're now starting to get a little bit of a hook on that. So right where that was, so you could tell how it matched that velocity really well right here. And that's not well in a good way. And then it's heading down here towards Highway 50. So the distillery is about right here. So there's the Jack Daniels right here, and there's the other visitor center and all that up here. It's going to be more down here to the south of there, just by a little bit. And this is going to follow basically parallel 50 as it moves towards Beach Hill here down the road. So I said give it about 20 minutes or so, and that's where it's going to be. It's going to go from here all the way out here. At least this thunderstorm itself will. And then this other thunderstorm to the south, we'll have to see what happens with this and see if we have a merger here or if this decides to stay separate. But I'll go and tell you that this storm here to the south doesn't have as much concern in my opinion, because if you can kind of tell by the shape, it's an elevated storm. It's not really it wouldn't really turn into a tornadic storm. At least this southern one would, down here towards Flintville. So we'll have to see if this ends up merging with this complex here and see if it tries to rejuvenate that storm. Now this out here near Manchester's gotten a little heavy. I said there could be some pea-sized hail in this one as it moves up here towards State Route 127, heads up towards Winton Town. So heads up here towards Hubbard's Cove. You got another strong storm about to move in, non-severe, but you do run that risk for another particularly strong thunderstorm. And here's a new scan here I just got in on the velocity scope, so let's see what that looks like now. And as I said, it's still there. Very strong winds, but I'm still seeing that broad circulation here. As I said, that lightning unfortunately continues to increase with this thing. So it decreased a little while ago, but now it's ramped back up again. So as I said, Boonville, Belleville, it looks like it's past there now. So I'll go ahead and give you the clear out here. So if you're out here towards Petersburg and Howell and Belleville there in the northwestern end of Lincoln County, you're clear. And also Fayetteville, you're clear too. This is north of you. So like I said, I'm going to give you an all clear. But Mulberry, just make sure just to be on the safe side that you're sheltered. I mean, this is probably just going to be a strong gusty wind in reality, but I just cannot rule out the chance that this could try to rotate a little bit more and try to produce a small tornado. And if a tornado were to be produced, it would be in that EF0, EF1 type of variety here. That's definitely nothing to mess around with. But I'm just saying it would be more. It wouldn't be like a higher end one. It would be one. It would be a smaller one. But remember, the smaller ones can cause damage. I mean, look what the EF1 did near Estill Springs a couple of weeks ago. I mean, look at the damage that did. So that stuff is serious. I mean, tornado is a tornado, and any tornado is dangerous. So even a brief spin up can still cause a lot of damage. So just make sure that even though right now there's no formal tornado warning, you still got to take this seriously. And that's why I'm still live here, because as long as there's still a little bit of broad rotation here and all that, I'm going to stay on this here and make sure we catch this just in case that this were to strengthen even more. But again, let me get an updated track on this here, and I'll move that, and that they just updated the speed. So it's actually moving east at 40 now. So let's track that to the east-southeast. And we'll stop it where the warning ends in Cowan because there's some uncertainty on whether it's going to go farther than that. So again, Mulberry, this will be on your doorstep here pretty much within the next couple minutes at 10:21. This thunderstorm will. Locksmill at 10:22. Beach Hill there around 10:35. Around 10:45 in Winchester Springs, so that's around Thames Ford Lake. Belvedere 10:46 if the storm trends farther south. Eastbrook around 10:46. Estill Springs around 10:48. Kissling Crossing down there on the southwest side of Winchester at 10:49. Winchester downtown at 10:51, 10:53 in Deckard, and Cowan around 10:59 p.m. And again, as I said, if that thunderstorm holds together. Now, it's interesting here. It looks like we're about to get a merger here happening here. So it looks like another pop-up's developed here east of Fayetteville. So it looks like we're about to get a merger here of this cell right here and possibly this one down here to the south. So it'll be very interesting over the next 10 to 20 minutes or so to see if this thing will either re-strengthen or weaken. We'll just have to wait and see what that does. But as I said, I'm still seeing some red and green here. That does indicate some broad rotation occurring in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that could eventually possibly translate to ground level if it were to continue to strengthen. So, again, as I said, I'm keeping a very close eye on everything, and And again, if I see any other danger, of course, I will definitely let you know immediately if this thing were to strengthen. As I said, I am on top of this. So right now, as I said, out here towards Mulberry is where all the lightning's concentrated. North of Kelso, so this is going to stay north of Kelso, north of Park City, so it's going to be well north of there by a pretty good bit. Here's Flintville. It's going to be north of there by a pretty good bit too. And here is the Huntland area. So this is going to pass mostly north of Huntland. As I said, as long as it turns southeast, it will stay north of there. And again, Belvedere, I think you guys will still be good as long as this stays on its current trajectory. Again, these storms like to oscillate. They will tend to curve to the south. They can turn to the northeast. They can really be problematic sometimes. So now there's also some rain I'm noticing that's running out ahead of this storm, and that could also help us out here, and especially on the Franklin County side. This cell right here that's developing, moving over Estill Springs. Now this is not the part of the storm that's the dangerous part, but this right here out ahead of it may help you out, and at least hopefully down the road maybe weakening this further to the west. But again, this is a pretty heavy storm here that's moving into Estill Springs right now, so pretty close to where the Montana Drive-In is and points south. That's where this heavy thunderstorm is tracking. And that's going to head out here towards 64, close to the Nissan plant, and up towards Woods Reservoir and up towards Shady Grove. So we'll see what this storm does and see if it zaps the environment out ahead of this. That can help weaken this to the west further more. But again, no signs of circulation in this storm out ahead of it, just some gusty wind, and really more of a typical June thunderstorm more than anything right now, because it's getting ready to cross 41A here. So this would be right near Bruner's Crossing. There's Winchester Springs right there, so that's State Route 130 that takes you eventually back up towards Tullahoma. And again, Tullahoma, this is not going to be an issue for you. So if you're in Tullahoma, you're good. But to the west here, let's see if we got a new velocity update. And thankfully, that scan looked a lot weaker. So some really positive news here. So around Mulberry, thankfully, this is weakened. I do think that storm interaction, at least right now, the storm interaction may be cutting off its inflow and allowing this to really get rid of that rotation. I'm hoping that continues. As I say, I hope to goodness that this cutoff continues here, so that way, we won't have to worry about any additional tornadic issues. But this is just something we have to watch here over the next few minutes, just to make sure that we don't get any additional problems here as far as rotating updrafts and such are concerned. Even though this might look like a hook technically, actually not really, because this cell right here is merging with this. So we're going to have to wait and see what that does here. And there's also another little cell west of Fayetteville here that I'm watching too. But thankfully so far that one hasn't really turned out to be anything. And there you go, the merger's happening. So there you go. So right, that new scan. Cell to the east is growing. Just a gusty wind and heavy rain and lightning producer. This merger out here is completing as we speak. And as I said, the spin continues to fall apart. This is mainly becoming a big downburst that, again, could, be on the order of 50 to 60 miles an hour. Look at the damage the downburst did in western Grundy County earlier. It did a lot of damage, at least tree damage, out there by Klaus Hill Road. So just know that even downburst winds in this kind of situation, they can still be just as significant as a small tornado. Sometimes you can get up to EF0 wind speeds even in a 65 mile an hour wind gust. So it's just something that, just got to make note of here and just make sure everybody's aware of here. But again, don't definitely, for sure here, do not let your guard down here, at least for the wind portion, at least the potential for the straight line winds, because that's still going to be running kind of high here. I'm not seeing anything that really jumps out as far as bright green, bright red out here, so that's good. So that tells me the winds are fairly manageable out here, I'll just say. But again, it's still a pretty intense thunderstorm here. And I'm sure it's probably putting on a lightning show out here west of and you could probably see, I'd imagine you probably could be able to see it out here from Suwanee and up here on top of the plateau over here. You could probably look to the west and see this. But at least the lightning of this storm, considering it's so tall. And let's actually check and see, speaking of which here. Yeah, this is a very tall thunderstorm. Look at this. 48,000 feet up. So yeah, that's a very tall thunderstorm, very intense. And this time of the year, you got that summertime heat, you got that leftover heat from the heating of the day. And remember, these areas out in here did not receive as much storm activity as everybody else did. So this is actually an area where it's still technically unstable. So that's why I'm saying that there's still a severe threat, especially out here in southern Middle Tennessee, because the air out here is still fairly unstable, and just enough to where we could still at least get some damaging wind gusts and maybe a little bit of small hail, at least a minimum, out of those thunderstorms out here. Again, the leading edge of that is now crossing. It's pretty much crossed Highway 50, so it's east of there now, at least on the Lincoln County side. It's approaching Highway 50 on the Moore County side, going southeast. So again, Beach Hill, this is almost on top of you. So get ready for some torrential rainfall, some gusty winds, and perhaps a little bit of hail there around Timms Ford. Now, the good news is this is not a severe hailstorm. I just want to let me just set that up right there. This is not a major hailstorm. This is probably, if it were producing hail, to me, I think it's probably smaller than quarter size. I'm thinking probably anywhere in the pea to dime to maybe penny at biggest, but it's definitely enough though where it'd be loud. I mean, if you get under this thunderstorm, trust me, you'll know. I mean, when it's over you, I mean, you'll know pretty quickly that it's a pretty strong storm going overhead. I mean, you'll hear it on your roof. So heads up down here towards, also there's Lexi Crossroads. That's State Route 121. So Broadview area, this storm is heading your way too. The southern end of this storm is likely going to catch the north side of Huntland and out here towards Belvedere. Not the most dangerous part up in here, but the southern leg of this storm is going to catch the Belvedere area and the north side of Huntland. It's already affecting parts of Flintville, but this is going to head out here also towards Winchester and Cowan too. So you really got this one kind of mini complex right here. It's technically still by itself technically, but you can kind of call this a mini complex here that's moving into Franklin County that does have that potential for some hail and some gusty winds here over the next little bit. So, as I said, it's definitely something to watch here. And let's check and see if we got any other. Let's make sure this thing's not trying to spin. I mean, as I said, it's trying, but thankfully so far at least, it's staying broad, and it's mainly staying in the format of the downburst winds as opposed to tornadic winds. So that's also some good news there. So also another reason why this lightning output may be also intensifying is likely because we got more thunderstorms developing to the south of this and also to the east, and that's allowing this lightning output to really increase out in here. So that's also another reason. And notice here too, and this is why I always say that when thunder wars go indoors here, here's why. Notice the distance of that lightning strike. And let me see if I can actually pull I'm not sure if I can do this on here, but I'll have to see if I put like a distance marker, and I'll have to go to the other source for that. But right here, I'll estimate it from that. I know exactly where that is. That's approximately 7 miles outside of this storm. So right here, this big lightning strike near Belvedere, that happened about 7 miles east of this actual storm. So the moment you hear thunder, even though it may not be raining over here, that's what I'm saying, you got to head indoors, because lightning strikes like that can form well out ahead of the actual storm. So, I mean, that lightning can extend pretty far. So definitely head inside for the lightning in those areas. I mean, be aware of that lightning risk, and make sure if you have to unplug anything, I mean, if you got chargers or whatever not, just make sure you unplug that just to be on the safe side, so that way you don't, that way the lightning doesn't travel through and such. But right here is where I'm seeing where you see this pink and red out here to the west with all this lightning in the middle here. That's the most intense part of this thunderstorm. As I said, it's broadened out. That's the good news. It is broadened out fast. So that's a good sign. I mean, you're not seeing any kind of C shape. If it was formed like this, I would be more concerned. But so far, it's not done that. At least as of the last 20 minutes or so. So again, that's the leading edge. And when you have a very sharp gradient here from nothing to full-on red and pink right here, that gradient difference right here, that's where you're going to have your damaging straight line winds here along this leading edge. So usually what happens most of the time in this situation with this thunderstorm, what's going to happen over here towards Belvedere and Winchester and Cowan and even Deckard, even though you got some influence from this storm to the north, what's going to happen, at least with this cell right here, is usually the wind will precede the rain. So the winds will likely start picking up ahead of the rain, and then the rain will move in, and you'll see that sideways rain, especially if that wind's blowing pretty good. If it is, you'll definitely see that sideways rain. So that's why I always say, make sure you're just away from especially your western-facing windows here, because that's the direction the storm is moving in from. So if you're out there towards Winchester area and out towards Cowan, make sure that you're away from your western-facing windows. So something like that. So really western, southern, northern facing windows especially, because that's the direction it's coming from. And just wait this out until the storm passes. Now let's check and see real quick if we got any velocity couplet, and it does. Like I say, it's trying its darnest, but thankfully, as I said, it's continuing to be broad and staying that way. And plus, it doesn't really match up with the reflectivity here. I mean, it does show a little bit of a little notch back here, but it doesn't really match up with the real intense part of the storm. So you really need that to match up with it in order to really have a big problem as far as like a tornado is concerned. But at the moment, I'm not seeing that. So yeah, Lexi Crossroads, get ready. Taylortown, get ready. You got some heavy thunderstorms moving in. So right there along 6 Mile Board Road. So there's the Lexi area itself. So Ferris Creek Bridge Road, Bonnie Lane. Those are the areas next in line to see this thunderstorm. And there's all the lightning out ahead of this. There's the Elk River that runs through there. And let's see here. Also, we got Clayton Siler Drive, Wet Prong Road, Big Bean Hollow Road. So this is right around the Moore County line. That's where this thunderstorm is moving in next. I mean, if it's not there, it's going to be there within seconds. At least this strong thunderstorm will be. Also, State Route 50 is getting hammered to Marble Hill, Beach Hill area, so right around the lake. So if you know anybody out here camping towards Timms Ford Lake, heads up here. They need to be somewhere sheltered, like in a little RV, something. Something that's indoors here. So you don't want to get struck by lightning here. This is this thunderstorm is moving in right now. So heads up around Timms Ford. And down here towards, also, there's 476. So there's where all the cabins and all this stuff are down here. And this is also, of course, our State Route 50 again. And also here's some other roads. There's the Timms Ford Hydroelectric Station. So there's the Timms Ford Dam Road. Klein Ridge Road, Richfield Drive, Pleasant Drive, Narrows Drive. These are the areas right now seeing the heaviest of the thunderstorm activity, or about to. Magnolia Drive. And this is also heading out here towards Young Lane. And what I can actually do, and this is pretty neat here, you can actually see, if you look closely here, you can actually see the buildings here, like homes and all kinds of stuff. So this is really close. There's the Bear Trace Golf Course right there. Here's the golf course itself right here. Here's where all the cabins are up here around Timms Ford. This is where the heaviest of this storm is moving over right now. And also, I don't want to ignore Estill Springs here because this is a really heavy cell here. I mean, it is pouring up here. I can just tell by looking at radar. So right over the post office, so that's right there. That's Main Street, the Sack and Pack, Estill Springs Nazarene Church. There's the park. So you're heading out here towards Deckard, Estill Road. And this road right here, that's 127 right here, that's AEDC Road. That's where that's heading next. So again, not a severe storm in here, but you do have that gusty wind potential. Now, they do keep this tornado possible tag on this. Let's see if we got a new update here. Yep, it says a severe thunderstorm was located near Timms Ford Lake or 8 miles southeast of Lynchburg. It's moving east at 40 miles an hour. So hazard is 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Sources radar indicated. Locations in the path of this include Winchester, Lynchburg, Deckard, Estill Springs, Cowan, Timms Ford Lake, Lexi Crossroads, Mulberry, Harmony, and Hurdlow. Those are the locations in the path of this storm. So let's check and see if we got anything else here also on the velocity scope. And as I said, this continues to look weaker, so that's good. Again, there's still a pretty strong downburst in here. That's why the warning still remains in place, just to account for that. And let's check on this northern area here real quick. up here to the north. And again, these storms up in here continue to fall apart. As I said, the air mass over here to the east, especially the closer you get over here towards Chattanooga and up towards Spencer and McMinnville, the air mass over here is a lot more stable because this is where all the big thunderstorms have been during the day. So the atmosphere is pretty zapped out over here. So any rain or storms that move in should not reach severe levels over here. Now I know this up in here is pretty heavy up here towards Sparta and up towards Crossville and south of Monterey, but so far, at least so far, I'll say, this right now has not shown any signs of being anything severe, at least at this time. So right around Indian Rock Lake to the north, watch out for that. And then not seeing anything down here across Alabama, so our Alabama communities are good. And even our Georgia communities here. So Trenton and Dalton, you guys are good for right now. And really most areas from Grundy and Marion and even Coffee County points east, at the moment, you guys are good too. And the air mass is set over here is a lot more stable, at least at this time. Again, could that change? Yeah, but right now, at least from looking at some of the observations here, the mesoanalysis and stuff behind the scenes, this is running into, this is about, once it gets up the mountain here, it's going to run to an environment that's less favorable for severe storm development. So right now it's in that area where it's most unstable, and that's why it's still intense. So you can still get some indications of some hail in here. I mean, there's some hail here that's moving right over areas north of 64 and southeast of Highway 50 there, so right close to Gattistown and Champ in Lincoln County, and that now that's changed. So that's moved out here towards Hurdlow and Liberty Hill now. And the good news is also this hail has actually decreased a little bit. So if there were to be any hail, it's probably staying small around pea size, I would say right now. Maybe up to Marble, but there's Neal Road, LB Road. That's the area where I'm seeing the hail in western Franklin County. There's Vernon Ridge Road. That's the area that's up next to see this. So there's State Route 21 that runs from Lexi Crossroads and up towards the Winchester area. So Broadview, here's your heads up. You got some heavy thunderstorms about to move in. Thankfully at this time, no tornado. So great thing to say here. There's no tornado with this. However, I am seeing some signs here of some strong wind, perhaps a little bit of hail moving east. And it's going to follow basically right down Highway 50 here into the city of Winchester. So that's exactly where this trajectory is going. So there's Kissling Crossing there where the roundabout is. That's where that's going next as well. And this cell up here to the north is actually weakened a little bit up here around Estill. I mean, still producing some very heavy rain up here up towards Capitol Hill. But so far this has actually weakened a little bit as the last scan as it moves up here towards Shady Grove, Gum Creek, Wilder Chapel, towards the Alto area, and Ruffledge Hill. As I said, this is still a pretty intense thunderstorm. I mean, this is still actually a fairly healthy, to the southwest here, this one's actually still a fairly healthy thunderstorm. That's putting down a lot of lightning and some gusty wind in here. As I said, there could be some pretty strong downburst wind here. So there's the Fayetteville area, so on the east side of town. That's where another strong thunderstorm is developing at the moment. And again, looks like that's going to merge with this as it moves into towards the Winchester area. And also some other cells here. Here's one over Hillsboro that's moving into western Grundy County right now. Here's another one that's basically following the Warren-Grundy County line and heading out towards Van Buren and northern Sequatchie counties. Pikeville's getting a heavy downpour right now, but non-severe, especially up here towards Cold Spring. That really heavy spot up that way. But might be some small hail here in western Cumberland County, heading up here towards Pleasant Hill on the west side of Crossville. So there may be some pea-sized hail in that cell. And then another cell out here towards north of Shelbyville, but that's non-severe. And so, like I say, I'm watching all these here just to make sure that we don't have anything else that tries to creep up on us here. Here's another heavy, little light to moderate shower here that's passing close to Griffith Creek and Whitwell. As I said, this is a good thing actually because this might help stabilize you and hopefully keep the worst of keep this severe storm from not getting into your area. As I said, the winds continue to collapse on this. That new velocity scan that just came out, so some more good news here. The wind velocities continue to collapse on this, so it would not surprise me here that even though it may be just safe to just keep this warning going, considering there's 20 minutes left on it, just in case it were to try to re-strengthen. But I got a feeling this warning is probably gonna end up being canceled here down the road, and that would be a great thing. So fingers crossed here that happens. Not saying it will, but I think if this cell continues to show signs, at least on the wind side of things, of collapsing, then I believe this warning will probably be allowed to expire here either as scheduled or maybe even canceled early. We'll see. And this is still a pretty strong cell out here to the east side of Fable and head up towards Mulberry and Kelso, but that one currently is not severe at the present time. That's it here. I got y'all covered here, so so you folks in Franklin County that may be watching, as I said, I'm keeping a very close eye on this, just in case it were to try to, re-strengthen back up here. But so far, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of lightning. I'm seeing a little bit of gusty wind, maybe a little bit of pea-sized hail, but that's basically about it right now. And as I said, winds continue to slowly collapse. I mean, every scan I'm looking at here, it continues to show a gradual weakening trend. And as I said earlier, that's what I was pretty much expecting here as this moves off to the east. So far, that's going to plan. Let me answer some questions here. Also, since there's no tornado warnings here, what does Beech Grove look like right now? You guys up here, you got a small downpour moving overhead, but thankfully your severe threat's pretty much done. So what I'm actually going to do here is give some all clears here. So Lincoln County, you're good. Moore County, give it about 5 more minutes and you'll be good once this heavy cell gets out of your area. Coffee County, y'all are good. Cannon, Warren County, Van Buren, you guys are good up here. Just some scattered downpour activity up in there. Marion County, I would keep a pretty close eye on this. Southern Grundy County, I keep an eye on it too, but I think you guys are good for the most part in Grundy as well. So as long as this stays south, I think Grundy will be good. But Marion, you might want to keep an eye on this to the west just in case that this were to hold together or possibly re-strengthen. Because sometimes what can happen here, even in marginal situations like this, and by the way, we did get downgraded for tonight at least, the marginal severe risk for tonight. So we're no longer in level 2 for tonight. It's become isolated, and as I said, this is a fairly isolated severe storm. I mean, remember, I covered 34 counties here, and this cell right here, you can tell it is isolated. I mean, this is the perfect example right here. Yeah, you got some storms up here towards Crossville, but as far as severe weather's going, it's only in this isolated area. So, but there's a lot of people living in that area, so it's just something that I want to make note here, that this is an isolated risk here that a few areas will get. I mean, there's some areas tonight, for example, Sand Mountain, North Georgia, you might get through without a raindrop. I mean, there's that chance. I mean, there's some areas may get through the rest of the night without getting a raindrop or a rumble of thunder. I mean, there's that chance. It's just the way these things work. I mean, you just see how scattered it all is. I mean, you see gaps in between. I mean, you can tell that this is scattered coverage here. So, as I said, there's a chance some areas may stay dry tonight. I mean, and avoid rain altogether. Not saying this is not for everybody. Only a few areas may get that opportunity. But right now, if you're in Jackson County or Northeast Alabama or in our North Georgia areas, you got nothing going on. And it's been fairly quiet down here. I mean, Northwest Georgia, other than the Calhoun area, they had that one warning. Other than that one warning earlier, that's been it. I mean, Northwest Georgia, you've had some thunderstorms, but you had anything severe. And as long as this storm stays north, you'll avoid this too. So this is mainly, as long as it stays on the easterly trajectory, this is mainly going to be Franklin and Marion County. Right now it's Franklin County, but Marion County will be next in line for this. But the good thing here is I'm not seeing any indications here of any spinning at the moment. So, again, if that changes, of course, I will definitely let you know immediately. But right now, this warning runs in effect for about another 16 minutes or so. Technically 17 because it's 10:43 at least on my clock. So it still runs for about another 16, 17 minutes. The severe thunderstorm warning does for Franklin County. And I know they technically still include Lincoln and Moore County, but actually I'm going to go ahead and give you all clear in Moore County. This is out of your area now. So Lynchburg, you're good. So really, Lincoln County, other than this one storm, you're good from this. The severe part of this is to your east. This is pretty much now a Franklin County issue. So I'll kind of circle the area where I believe the most intense part of this storm is going to be affecting here. So something like this. So that does include Deckard, does include Winchester, does include Cowan and Belvedere, and clipping the south side of Estill Springs. But you're just getting rain up there. That's not, you don't have anything to worry about there. But so really Deckard, Nissan, south here towards Winchester and Cowan and Belvedere. This is the most intense part of the storm where this is going. As I said, if it holds together, it will head out here towards Suwannee next up, possibly Sherwood. So you guys will be next in line to see this storm if it continues its easterly progression. And I know they're still saying 1-inch hail on that, but I think that risk has really diminished a good bit. Now, Mont Eagle looks like this is going to be south of you, but you're kind of close enough here to watch this, especially if it were to move a little more east. So, looks like near and south of Mont Eagle. And then eventually, if it holds together, Orem area, Sweetens Cove, maybe Martin Springs. So, again, like I've circled all the areas that need to watch out here just in case the storm were to re-strengthen. So, Mont Eagle right here, Sherwood here, Suwannee here, Martin Springs here, Sweetens Cove there, and Orem right there. So, those are the areas that we'll need to watch this just in case it were to keep going or potentially re-intensify. So let's check and see if we got a new scan. As I said, the wind mode continues to not look all that impressive, and that's the good sign. This is a gradually, it should be a gradually decaying storm. It's still a healthy storm itself, but it should be in that weakening stage. Let me get that distance thing off. But right here, and actually what I'll do here real quick, and let's see if we got an updated speed on here. 40 miles an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to track that. So we'll track the heaviest part, and we'll track it to about the Marion County line. I mean, because we want to play it safe with this. So this will be, so Kissling Crossing, the heaviest part of this storm will be in your area around 10:49. Winchester downtown again around 10:51, so about 5 minutes away from this really intense part right here. Cowan just before or right around 11 o'clock. University View and Suwannee there around 11:05, 11:06. And in St. Andrews around 11:09 and Sandswitch around 11:10. Again, all those times are in the central time zone. And back here to the west, you got this other storm that's also that's also developing and attempting to merge with this one. So it'll be interesting to see what this does. And you can kind of tell right here on this view, you have to look kind of close. So let me get this out of 50 frames and get over to 7 frames. You can actually see this right in here. You see this outflow boundary being laid across here. So what that's doing is that's getting rid of any tornado threat of this storm because the outflow is all the way out here. So as long as it stays ahead of this thunderstorm, this will not even be anywhere near tornadic. Now, if it were to merge and we get something to form right down in here, then that's when it would get concerning. But as long as it stays north of the boundary, then there will not be any tornadic concern from that. Unless we just got a new scan of the radar here. So let me look through and see if we got a little velocity scan, and there you go. So as I said, this is mainly, as I said, straight line wind. I mean, you can kind of see it right here. You see this difference here where the reds go to nothing right here. I mean, that's in a straight line heading due east. So there's Winchester, you're in line. Deckard, get ready for that. So this is pretty much a mini gust front right here. That's moving off to the east. So Cowan, this is heading your way next. Belvedere looks like this first part's past you, at least the wind, the gusty wind portion, but you're probably getting some heavy rain there. And I'm also watching, it looks like another cell's trying to form down here at the south near Alexi Crossroads. Now this does look like a little bit of broad rotation out here to the west. Let me double check and see if that, it is right on that boundary, so we'll have to watch that over the next few minutes, but right now that's not an imminent concern. So right here where Moore, Lincoln, and Franklin counties all come together, right here north of Huntland, there is a little bit of some weak upper level rotation there, considering it's right on this gust front here. But again, we'll watch that, but right now there's not an imminent concern, I should say. And then up here towards Grundy County, I'm seeing a heavy thunderstorm about to move in, but as I said, you guys are good, at least right now. You don't have any severe weather concern at the moment. Light rain continues out towards Whitwell. Pikeville looks like the heaviest part of this has moved out of your area, but you're about to get some more rain here shortly. And I take Crossville's getting ready to get a pretty rough thunderstorm here soon. Non-severe, but you may have a little bit of pea-sized hail in it, and also some gusty winds and some torrential downpours and lightning too. Cookville's out of the woods on this, so you're clear. Smithville, you're clear. That's past you now. Manchester, Coffee County, y'all are good. Tullahoma, y'all are good. Lynchburg, you're good. So again, like I say, I'm giving some all clears here real quick for areas west of this one severe thunderstorm. So, as I said, most of Lincoln County, y'all are good. So that's the good news there too. As I said, I'm still keeping an eye out here for a little bit of some broad rotation, but really what this is too is really more of that intense downburst wind that's moving right over Lexi Crossroads. So there's actually 3 separate storms here that are moving into Franklin County that are kind of trying to merge and become one. Here's the one that's been severe that had the tornado warning earlier in Lincoln County. This is the weaker one that's moving into Winchester and Deckard right now. Here's the second storm that's right here where Moore, Lincoln, and Franklin counties all meet, so west of Belvedere and north of Huntland. And here's the third storm in eastern Lincoln County near Kelso, east of Fayetteville here and south of Lynchburg. And all this activity is moving off to the east. So this is probably, as I said, it's probably going to become one line here. And you'll definitely have the risk for some strong wind gusts here out here towards Cowan and Swanee and Sherwood here down the road, as well as areas along Road Gap Road up in here on top of the mountain as you head down here towards Jackson County. Now, it does look like Jackson County, speaking of which, should avoid this. So it looks like right now, at least from what I'm seeing, you may get this little downpour that's out by Hazel Green in Jackson, down here towards Jackson County, but it does appear that this severe storm is going to stay to your north. So Sand Mountain, I don't think you have to worry about anything. And Dade County. Now, Dade County might be a little close, because especially if this were to trend southeast, because what usually happens is when you have a complex like this, a little mini complex of storms that tries to develop like this, they will tend to start moving a little more from like this. Let me see if it'll let me draw that. There we go. It'll move from like this to more kind of a southeast-southeast kind of turn. So that's what I'm saying. So it may move from that direction and move like this, if this all kind of converges and strengthens a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. It might be close enough to kind of keep an eye on Bridgeport in particular in Jackson County, and maybe perhaps northern or Walker County or Dade County. But it does appear right now that this is going to be mainly Franklin and Marion for this thunderstorm. And let's check and see. We got a new radar scan in just now. And I said this third storm here is basically converging right now with the second one. So looks like this is really about to become one complex. You don't have a velocity update just yet, but hail core is actually increased on this northern end up here a little bit. Not by much, but just a little bit up here towards Lexi Crossroads and points north. So it's heading out. So it looks like the worst of this is going to pass just south of Broadview, but you'll kind of get clipped by this northern edge. And then out here towards, like I said, Winchester, lots of red, lots of pink in here, lots of orange, torrential downpours here. So Winchester, Deckard, y'all are getting the brunt of this right now. And then now you're towards Greenhall, Cowan area. You're about to get in on this activity soon. Alto on this north end, you're not going to really see any of this much. You're just going to get the heavy rain up here that's by ADC Road. That's heading your way. But again, at the moment, let's see, Wi-Fi's out in Belvedere. And I'm getting a report of a power outage here. Looks like there's a brief power outage in South Pittsburgh, but doesn't look like that. And that yet, it's probably not storm related because there's no storm down there right now. Thank you very much there, Leah, for the compliment there. In Morris Ferry, Franklin County starting to pour. Swanee is in line for these thunderstorms. The northern storm is more weaker, so it looks like you'll probably get the weaker one, but it's still going to be quite heavy with some heavy rain lightning. Estill Springs, the worst, is south of you now, so I'm going to give you an all clear. in Estill Springs. Dunlap, I think Dunlap's going to miss this, but this heavy downpour right here in Grundy County is going to probably head your way within the next 30 minutes to an hour. Let's see here. Make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay, I answered Beech Grove there earlier. Okay, just wanted to make sure that I was answering as many as I can. Just pouring here in Winchester. And let's see. Yeah, just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything there. So, all right, let's check and see if we got a velocity update here real quick and make sure this is not. Yeah, it's as I said, this is trying. Let's see what they're saying here. Here's some good news here. So, the severe thunderstorm warning for more East Central Lincoln and Central Franklin counties will expire at 11 o'clock. The storm which prompted the warning has weakened below severe limits and no longer poses an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning will be allowed to expire on time, so within 5 minutes. However, gusty winds and heavy rain are still possible with this thunderstorm. So that's just the update I just got in from the NWS, that they will be canceling this severe thunderstorm warning on schedule at 11 o'clock because this thunderstorm has trended below severe levels. So, some awesome news for those of you in Franklin County. And as I said, if you're in Moore County, Lincoln County, this is moving east of you. And as I said, I just gave you the all clear a few minutes ago, but I'll reiterate that again, that you guys are clear from that. So, again, we'll have to keep an eye on this southern storm, because sometimes what can happen is, especially considering the outflow boundaries connected to this, sometimes you can get little bit of broad rotation sometimes in the upper levels with this, and that can also enhance the downburst wind threat too. So we'll have to see if any re-intensification occurs down here to the south. So we'll just have to keep a close eye on that. And let me make sure that's not doing anything else here. And I believe we're good on that end. Now, we'll still watch this carefully here over Alexi Crossroads as it moves towards Belvedere, but right now I'm not seeing an imminent, at the moment here, as of 10:55, as of 10:56, I don't see an imminent tornado concern there. So the good news is, considering this thunderstorm is now below severe levels and the warning will expire on time at 11 o'clock here, so 4 minutes away. So thankfully it's not a tornado warning, but so it's a severe thunderstorm warning. It'll expire on time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sign off here, considering that this is no longer posing, at least the severe part is no longer posing an imminent, I can't even say it, no longer posing an imminent danger to life or property or anything like that. So as long as this storm stays below severe levels, no news is good news. And trust me, if we get another warning here, I'll post something about it here and put out a written post. And if we get another tornado warning, I'll be right back on here on the lives here on Facebook and YouTube. As I said earlier before I sign off, make sure that you're subscribed also to my YouTube channel. Again, it's for free. You can also watch this live over there. So as I said, there's multiple different ways you can watch my live coverage here now. So that's another big benefit there. And you can also cast your YouTube to your TV and be able to watch my coverage from there from your TV. So that's really cool as well. So, all right, have a safe night, guys. And of course, again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm watching this. And if we get any other additional warnings, I will post immediately. And if we get a tornado warning, I'll be right back here on the live. So stay with Tri-State Area Weather. I will keep you advised.